So by the time it comes, let me introduce you, sir. So today we are having a very eminent resource person who has also been one of our resource person in the last FDP, and we are looking forward to this session also from him. And he is associate professor and head in the Department of Management, Sikkim University. He is a chairperson of Board of Studies of Department of Management and the Department Research Council. Dr. Murari did his PhD from MITS Lakshmangarh and MBA from Institute of Management Sciences. He has a teaching and research experience of more than 16 years. He is a resource person for workshop FDPs and special lectures on research methodology and data analysis using statistical software such as Minitab, SysStat, eViews, R, SPSS, and AMOS. He has authored 3 textbooks, completed 1 major and 2 minor research projects. He has also published more than 40 research papers in ABDC, CAPS, Scopus, and Web of Science listed journals by reputed publishers such as Emerald, Taylor and Friends, Sage, etc. And he has also presented research papers in 10 international and 15 national conferences, seminars. Under his guidance, till now, 2 number of PhD degree already awarded. 1 number is submitted and 3 numbers is ongoing. He acted as a resource person and subject expert in various programs in reputed institutes across India. He is also a member of IQAC, Academic Council, School Board of Professional Studies, Placement Cell, Selection Committee, etc. of Sikkim University. Today, his topic of deliberation in this FTP will be discriminant analysis and its interpretation with example. I welcome you, sir, again in our FDP, and the session is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this second time I'm with you in this advanced level of analysis, SPSS, data analysis using SPSS. So the topic for today is, I hope I'm audible to everyone?
Yes, sir, audible, but sometimes the voice is breaking, sir, today.
My voice is breaking?
Yes, sir. Like you may make your video off so that the voice can be clear.
Okay, so what should I do now?
You just put your camera off.
Camera off, no? Yes.
So that we can save the bandwidth.
Yeah. Yes. Correct. So now I can share my screen, right?
Yeah, you can share, sir.
My screen now, tell me.
It's coming, sir. Yeah, came, sir. Yeah, but it's showing something else.
Something else?
Like the thing that now it came, sir. SPSS output, generating output, slide came.
Yes. I want to remove this panel actually. How can I remove this panel?
Which one you want to remove, sir?
The top one. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can
one
see
is coming on the.
Do you want to share only the slide or you want to share the entire desktop?
No, desktop only. I have shared the entire window,
okay.
Entire desktop. But the point is, actually, I am not able to remove this window. This window. This is whatever is coming. Back.
You can minimize it. You can minimize it.
It is not. There is no option to minimize it.
We can see it, sir. At the top, there are some
black bar is there, no? Okay, let it be. Fine, it may go again. So, thank you very much, Dr. Chaudhary, for this invitation to take session on discriminant analysis using SPSS during this FTP sponsored by Atal on advanced level of data analysis using SPSS and tools and techniques. So today I'm going to talk about this discriminant analysis. And you know, the discriminant analysis is basically an extended version of the regression analysis. You see, so if you know about the discriminant analysis, regression analysis well, you will be able to understand the discriminant analysis also. There is nothing difficult in understanding the uses of discriminant analysis. And actually, you see, the discriminant analysis, cluster analysis, conjoint analysis, all these are the marketing research techniques. Okay, so the people who are engaged in the business research or marketing research, they use these techniques to identify who would be their potential customers. Or am I audible? Sometimes in between it says that
Yes, sir,
my
audible.
network is unstable. Okay. So these, the market researchers, they use these techniques, okay, for understanding their customers, their clients in a better way. So first, talking about that, what is discriminant analysis? Just a second. How this can be removed? This is creating a problem. Actually,
Vicky ji, if you are there, can you help, sir?
hide floating meeting controls. Yeah, this would be, I think, option. This would be the option. Yes. Now it is okay. So this discriminant analysis, let us understand that what this discriminant analysis is. So basically, if you know that what regression analysis is, now let me just go back to the regression analysis, then I'll relate it with the discriminant analysis, so that you can understand that how discriminant analysis is different from the regression analysis. So if you remember, in regression analysis, what we supposed to do was, there was a dependent variable, all right, so y, and there were certain independent variable, all right. So a was the constant or intercept, so y plus y equal to a plus b x1 b1 x1 plus b2 x2 and so on, like that. This is the basic regression analysis, okay? Where this dependent variable is actually a metric in the sense, like it is an interval or ratio scaled variable, okay? In regression analysis, in regression, this variable, dependent variable, has to be metric in the sense it should be either scale variable, interval or ratio scale variable, okay. And then these are independent variables. So these independent variables can be metric. Hello. Yes. So independent variable can be metric. This should also be metric variables. This is regression. Okay, what we are talking about is regression. But what if this dependent variable is not metric? It is not a absolute value. This is not a this is not an absolute value. It's not a scale variable. Now it is a categorical variable. Categorical variable in the sense, our dependent variable, we want the dependent variable to be categorical. For example, yes, no, okay, or it may be successful, unsuccessful, okay, success or failure, whatever, success or failure. So these are the two categories, or maybe more than two categories. If we want a prediction in such a way for the dependent variable, in such a way that our independent variables are able to give us the category classification, not the absolute value. So in regression analysis, we get the absolute value, predict the value of the dependent variable, which may be say, for example, if we want to forecast a sales, so sales maybe sales is equal to, we can make a function of like sales is equal to say some for advertisement expenses, okay, advertisement expenses, all right, and then there can be the price of the product, right? So these are the independent variable. So sales will be affected by the advertisement and price of price. Sales may be, say for example, some absolute value, say for example 200 billions or millions, whatever. Okay, billions. This regression analysis gives you the absolute value for the dependent variable. All right. But discriminant analysis, now we are concerned with the effect of two or more variables. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we are concerned with the effect of two or more predictor variables on certain evaluation criteria. So this evaluation criteria may be like, as I said, the categories of the dependent variable can be good or bad, okay, dislike or dislike, successful or unsuccessful, and so on. So here are some of the examples for such type of classification. You can see good or bad, while grouping the investment alternatives based upon the rate of return. Investment alternatives, for example, you are investing in NPS, you are investing in fixed deposits. So that if you are interested in knowing, when you know the rate of return for a particular investment option, whether it is a good or it is a bad. So based upon rate of return being an independent variable, I am interested in that I should know whether it is a good or bad. Okay, so that is the criteria. Second is the grouping of sales region based upon their sales potential. Grouping of sales region based upon their sales potential. Another example, we can classify the regions based upon the sales potential. It's high sales potential in this region or maybe low sales potential. Successful or unsuccessful, grouping of CEOs of companies based upon their overall managerial skills. We are interested in knowing, when we know their managerial skills, would like to forecast whether this CEO will be whether it will be a successful or unsuccessful. So we want to know the prediction in categories. Okay, then we use this discriminant analysis. Similarly, another example is like grouping of R&D projects based upon their successful completion, whether it will be successful or unsuccessful. Like or dislike. This is another category. Grouping of products by consumers in terms of their flavor, maybe number of products in the market. So in terms of the flavor, if we ask the opinion of the customers, and if we have the data set about the opinion related to the products from the customers, then we classify whether they would like the product or they will dislike the product. Okay, so that is another example. Similarly, grouping executives in the company in terms of their leadership qualities and above expected level or below expected level. So you can see in all these examples, what we are talking about is we are interested in the dependent variable, where our dependent variable is categorical. Okay, there may be two categories or maybe more than two categories. Fine. An independent variable may be some metric scale, or scale, maybe interval or ratio scale variables, independent variables. So actually, when can we use this discriminant analysis? Using discriminant analysis means when one thing is very clear, that when dependent variable is dichotomous or multichotomous. When dependent variable is dichotomous or multichotomous, we can use the discriminant analysis. But at the same time, the independent variable should be metric. That is, should be measured in either interval or ratio scale, right? And if we use dependent variable in more than two groups, okay, and where dependent variable is having it is a multichotomous type. It is having the more than two categories. Then we use this discriminant analysis. Name of the discriminant analysis is multiple discriminant analysis. Okay, we call it as multiple discriminant analysis. Whereas if there are only two groups, which for the dependent variable, or there are only two categories of the dependent variable, we simply use a term which is called as discriminant analysis or simple linear discriminant analysis. We can say linear discriminant analysis. So the terminology of whether it is a multiple discriminant analysis or linear discriminant analysis will depend upon the categories of the dependent variables. All right. So what is the discriminant analysis model? As I said, that it is a, if you know the basics of regression, you can understand it better. So you can see here, the purpose of discriminant analysis is to estimate the relationship between single non-metric dependent variable, which is our y. Non-metric, it means there may be some categories or maybe three categories. Okay, so these are the categories for this variable categories, and there may be number of independent variables which should be measured on metric scale. Metric scale, I hope you understand what is metric scale. Metric scale, again, it is a scale, interval or ratio scale variable. So there can be x1 variable, x2, x3, and so on. Okay, this is the discriminant analysis model. We want to predict the categories of the dependent variable with the help of metric scale measured independent variables. So to what extent this set of independent variables, they are able to classify the categories of the dependent variable. That is what the basic discriminant analysis model is. Okay. So talking about then what is discriminant score, model score, discriminant function. From the same equation, we will develop a discriminant function. I will not go in too much technicalities of these equations, because generally these equations and all, they make the people very scary. They feel it very, troublesome. Fine. So I will not go into the detail, but this is it is very simple discriminant function, which the algorithm behind the discriminant analysis is that we will be using the discriminant function. Again, the discriminant function would be the dependent variable. Okay, a dependent variable equal to the constant, and then some weight, discriminant weight. W1 is discriminant weight for the first dependent variable. Similarly, W2 plus W2 and the discriminant weight for second independent variable, and so on, like that. And we will be computing the scores. So discriminant score will be determined from this discriminant function. We'll be telling you that how it is calculated and how it is done. Okay. So some points, you may wonder, like maybe some points. Key, what is the difference between regression and discriminant analysis? What is the similarity? What is the dissimilarity between regression analysis and discriminant analysis? So along with the ANOVA also you can compare, because ANOVA, regression together is very much used in discriminant analysis. Okay. ANOVA, analysis of variance, and regression is very much used in discriminant analysis. Okay. So what are the similarities? First, let us see. That number of dependent variables, ANOVA is also one, regression is also one, and discriminant analysis or logit analysis is also one. Okay, dependent variable. And number of independent variables, they can be many, in multiple. They can be many in both, in all the type of analysis, ANOVA, regression, and discriminant. What makes the difference? I told you, it is only the dependent variable, the category. So difference is, so number of dependent variable in ANOVA, it is metric. Okay, nature of dependent variable is metric. Metric in the sense the dependent variable in ANOVA should be categorical. Okay. In regression, it should be metric. In ANOVA, it should be metric, and regression also it should be metric. But in discriminant analysis, it should be categorical, dependent variable. Okay, it may be categorical, or it may be binary, or it may be multiple categories. So, and the nature of independent variables, ANOVA, it should be categorical, regression, it should be metric, and discriminant analysis also, it should be metric. So that is the difference between the ANOVA and regression, ANOVA, regression, and discriminant analysis. We will be using the results of regression analysis and ANOVA very, they are the base for the discriminant analysis. So we'll be first performing certain ANOVA and regression analysis, and then we'll be going with the discriminant analysis in order to understand the interpretation of discriminant analysis. Now, talking about the objectives of discriminant analysis. Now, why we use this discriminant analysis? As I told you, that there may be, we want to find out the linear combination of the independent variables which discriminate between the categories of dependent variable in the best possible manner. All right. So, what is the combination, linear combination of variables that will help, that will discriminate the categories of dependent variable? Second, we want to find out now which independent variables are relatively better. We want to know, like, there may be a long list of independent variables, but among those independent variables, which independent variables are relatively better in discriminating the categories of dependent variable? First, we want to know that we want to know that linear combination of the variables, and among that combination of the variable, which variables are more important. We can rank based upon their contribution in discriminating the categories of the dependent variable. We want to know the statistical significance, in order to know the statistical significance of discriminant function, whether there is any statistical difference that exists among the groups in terms of the predictor variables. That also we want to know. So, and lastly, we want to develop the procedure for assigning new objects, firms, or individuals whose profile are known, but not the group identities are known to one or other two groups. Therefore, why this discriminant analysis is important for the marketers or the market researchers? See, a company would like to know that who are its potential customers or potential buyers. If a company has launched a product, and so if the company is able to understand that a particular person or particular client will be a potential buyer, a potential non-buyer. If the company is able to know that this particular customer would be a potential non-buyer, then why to unnecessarily waste time and resources on the non-buyer customer? Are you getting my point? So discriminant analysis helps the market researchers to identify exact or categorical, exact specifically the possible customers, possible clients on which the company people or company representatives may give, they may focus on these potential customers. All right. So this will help us. We want to know that to evaluate the accuracy of classification, that is how accurately we are able to classify the customers, the categories. Okay, how accurately we are able to classify the categories with the help of the model, discriminant analysis model. Just like regression model, how accurately we are able to classify. So what is the accuracy of this discriminant analysis model in terms of classifying the actual customers into specific categories? That is the purpose or the objective of discriminant analysis. There are certain assumptions which you need to understand, that sample size, there should be adequate sample size for performing discriminant analysis. it should be at least 5 times the number of independent variables, at least 5 times. Okay, so number of observations, if you have two independent variables, so minimum there should be 10 observations. Are you getting my point? And the group sizes of dependent variable should not be grossly different. Grossly different in the sense such as 80-20. So 80-20 is like you may say that 80% of people are buyers and 20% buyers, 20% people are non-buyers for a particular product. So in that case, you may use logistic regression. It may be preferred. Okay, 80-20. But generally, if the group sizes are relatively comparable, maybe 50-50, it can be preferred. However, we use with different probabilities also. We can use discriminant analysis with different probabilities also. So say for example 60-40, 70-30, like that. So if your group sizes are relatively different, group sizes are grossly different, you prefer this logistic regression. And then independent variables must be normally distributed, and there should be homogeneity of variances and covariances. All variables, they must have linear and homoscedastic relationship, and there should be the homogeneity in the variance and covariances across each category of the dependent variable. Outliers, there should not be any outlier present in the data, because outliers affect your results to a great extent. So discriminant analysis especially is very highly sensitive to the inclusion of the outliers. So you must ensure before performing the discriminant analysis, you must ensure that your data file is clean. There is no outlier. Outlier means any extreme values. Non-multicollinearity, independent variables, there should not be high degree of correlation among the independent variables. If there is a high degree of correlation among the independent variables, it simply means there will be a problem of multicollinearity. In regression analysis, I think some resource person must have discussed about this multicollinearity issues. So you must also ensure that there is no high degree of correlation among the independent variables, and this will affect the problem of multicollinearity, will affect your discriminant analysis results. And the mutually exclusive groups, so the groups or the categories of dependent variable must be mutually exclusive with every subject or case. It should not be overlapping one. Every case or every respondent must be classified in one and only one category. Okay, it should not be, there should not be confusion. He should be in one category or the other category. There should be only one category of the dependent variable. Each of the allocation of dependent categories in the initial classification, you must ensure that they are correctly classified, and the variability, no independent variable should have a zero variability in either of the group. So zero variability means they should not be, all the responses should not be same. If the responses are same, it means there is a zero variability. So no independent variable should have a zero variability in either of the groups formed by the dependent variable. Okay. Some uses of discriminant analysis are we can use it discriminant analysis in scale construction. Scale construction is simply well, you see, for your research purpose, you may use different scales. Okay, one scale developed by one researcher, you have the similar scale developed by another researcher. Whether these scales are discriminated, are they these scales, to what extent the variables or the statement included in these scales, they are able to discriminate with each other. Okay, and on which people with diverse views they will respond differently. So while constructing the scale also, we can use discriminant analysis, and you must be knowing that scale validation when you construct a scale, there is a requirement for the scale validity. So while we talk about the validity, we use discriminant validity. What discriminant validity means? What discriminant validity means simply like how your scale is able to differentiate your scale variables or the statements. They are able to discriminate the opinion of the people from the other scales. Okay, so scale construction, we can use discriminant analysis in scale. Another use is perceptual mapping. Perceptual mapping is something like which it's a marketing technique. We want to know which attributes will be more important while developing the spatial maps in the minds of the respondents, okay, in the minds of customers. If you want to focus on long-term memory for a memory or long-term plan for developing the, for developing the cases, developing the marketing strategy, we have to target as a marketing person or the market, we have to target the clients for a long run. So we need to develop a perceptual mapping in the brains, in the minds of the customers. So which attributes are more important? Which attributes are more important? That will be, if we know properly, it will be helpful for us to target, to make a proper marketing strategy. Right. Then segment discrimination. I told you that if we can find out the segments in the markets, market segmentation, with the help of the key independent variables. For example, we may target that this is a high demanding. There is a high demand in this particular segment. Okay, and there may be low demand for a particular product in a particular segment. So low demand and high demand, if we are able to discriminate in this way, so why we can focus more on in the segment where there is a high demand instead of wasting our time in the region where there is a low demand. So this discriminant analysis will help us in the market segmentation also, and this technique is very useful, very much used in market segmentation, discriminant analysis. So there are certain key terms used in discriminant analysis. We'll be talking about these terms when I go with SPSS. You will understand better these terms. One is discriminant function. I have already talked about discriminant function. Then classification matrix, which actually tells you about that what percentage of the existing data points are correctly classified. So we will be trying to more classify the the respondents in various categories based upon the independent variables. To what extent we are able to classify based upon our model results. It will be given by the classification matrix. Okay, and BOXM test is so I testing this, that what it tells you, and how we will interpret this BOXM test. Basically, we test the BOXM. We test a hypothesis that the covariance matrices do not differ between groups formed by the dependent variable. Okay, so covariance, for example, in ANOVA, we used to do the like whether there is a significant difference in the mean scores of two samples or two categories. So similar to that is like BOXM test. So there we check that whether the covariance matrices, they do not differ, they are same, they are equal in covariance matrices are equal across the two or more than two categories of dependent variables. Okay, so if BOXM test is insignificant, it indicates that assumptions required by this discriminant analysis, they hold good. What is important here to note is that BOXM statistics must be insignificant. BOXM statistics must be insignificant. That is the desired result for the BOXM test statistics. So ultimately, when it will be insignificant, when the p-value is less than p-value is greater than 0.05. Okay, when the p-value is greater than 0.05, it will be insignificant. And p-value of, we'll see, look at the value of BoxM test. If it is insignificant, we will retain the null hypothesis that the covariances are, they do not differ. They are same. They are same. That is what is required. Covariances should not be very much different across the categories of dependent variable. Okay. You can see here that what is the null hypothesis? Null hypothesis here is the covariances are across group. Covariances across group across groups are same. Okay, more or less they are same. Covariance matrices are same across groups. They are same. So what is the purpose? Like if p-value is while testing, and the null alternate hypothesis would be covariances are not same. Okay, covariances are not same. So when covariances are not same, then there is a different approach we need to use. When covariances are same, we need to use a different approach. Okay, so I'll tell you while performing the data analysis in SPSS that how you can do it. Okay, next terminology, important terminology is eigenvalue. Eigenvalue indicates the proportion of variance explained by the proportion of variance explained by the independent variables. So it is basically the ratio of between group sum of squares divided by within group of sum of squares in regression output, in regression analysis output. So a large value is preferred. Large eigenvalue is preferred, and it will be then it is it will be called a strong discriminant function. There is a large eigenvalue. Okay, and then eigenvalue is actually the index of overall fit for the model. Talking about this once again, the Wilks lambda. Wilks lambda is another important terminology which you need to understand what it is. So it is the efficiency of discriminant function in the model. It shows that how much percentage of variability in dependent variable is not explained. Okay, is not explained. So what is the expected outcome for this? We should have a less value of the Wilks lambda because we want higher amount of the variance explained by the independent variables, isn't it? So we expect Wilks lambda to be less because it tells you about the percentage of variation in dependent variable which is not explained. Okay, so R square is actually the percentage of variation. If you know the regression results, what is the R square coefficient of determination? Coefficient of determination is the percentage of variation explained by the percentage of variation explained. Okay, by independent variables. R square, this is R square, and then what will be the 1 minus R square? 1 minus R square would be the percentage of variation which is unexplained. Unexplained variation. Unexplained variation. So do you think what it would be? Is it equal to the Wilks lambda 1 minus square? Because it also tells you about that it is not explained. Percentage of variability in the dependent variable which is not explained. So R square gives you the variability which is explained. 1 minus R square will give you the percentage of variability which is not explained by the independent variable. So Wilks lambda is, we want this value to be less. Okay. Then there is a 1 minus R square, which is also called as canonical correlation. I'll tell you that what is the canonical correlation. Canonical correlation simply means the multiple correlation between the dependent variable and the discriminant function scores. Okay. So high correlation indicates that discriminant function actually discriminates the categories of dependent variable very well. So canonical correlation, higher the canonical correlation, higher would be the degree of higher would be the percentage of variability explained by the independent variables. Okay, so canonical correlation, and with only one function, which is okay. Then canonical discriminant function coefficient. These all I will explain when we perform this, critically discriminant analysis. Discriminant analysis design. This is a summary which I have discussed so far. Where basically, it must be non-metric, representing the dependent variable. Must be non-metric, representing a group of objects that are expected to differ on independent variables. So you can use use a dependent variable that should describe best the categories of interest. The dependent variable must define the groups that are substantially different. Should not be confusion among the categories. Okay, that's why I said that they should be mutually exclusive. Minimize the number of categories while still meeting the research objective. Now, one thing is very important here to note is that while performing the discriminant analysis, you must ensure that there are minimum categories of the dependent variable. If there are more categories of the dependent variable, so for example, you may think of that you want to discriminate on the Likert scale, making a Likert scale variable as a dependent variable where strongly disagree, and then neither disagree nor agree and strongly agree. There are 5 categories. So more the categories you are making in the dependent variable, more is the chance of the discriminant analysis model will not classify the respondents in the actual categories. So the probability, the probability of classification decreases with more number of categories in the dependent variable. So then what is the solution? The solution is that you can have minimum 2 categories or maximum 3 categories, or maybe 4 categories. As you are increasing the categories in the dependent variable, it will be the classification matrix will not show good results. This is the actually the problem. This is why, so you can have 2 or 3 categories, maximum 3 categories. It is preferred to have 3 categories maximum. So you need to recode your dependent variable. You have to recode the dependent variable for performing the discriminant analysis. Okay. Then in converting metric variables to all this, we have already discussed now. No need to go into the detail of this. And this also I will assessing the model fit and predictive accuracy. I'll explain this with when I go with the practical example illustration. Okay, there are certain limitations of discriminant analysis as well. Limitations are it cannot be used when subgroups are stronger. Subgroup there are subgroups also in the categories. If there are subcategories, then we may not use discriminant analysis. So you have to make the groups very carefully, which are Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Was it for a time I was?
Hello, your voice is now breaking.
Oh. So
Yeah.
now is it audible properly?
Yes, sir. Now it's audible, but it's not visible right now.
I have not shared, and I need to share the screen.
Okay, sir.
Is it with screen is visible or not? Tell me.
So it's coming.
Okay,
Just a second.
okay. What is coming?
No, it's showing a started screen sharing. Yes, sir. Now it's visible. Yeah.
Limitations of discriminant analysis. I was of discriminant analysis. So this discriminant analysis cannot be used when there is insufficient data to define the sample means. So under representation of the population through the sample will lead different results for the discriminant analysis, and they may not be very much interpretable. So you need to ensure that there is a sufficient data for performing the discriminant analysis. Normally, there should be 5 times more than predicted variables. So if you are, as I told you, if you are having 3 independent variables and 1 dependent categorical dependent variable, so how many observations you should have? Minimum, at least you should have 5 times more than the number of predicted variables. So at least you should have 15 variables, minimum 15 variables. If there are more than 15 variables, so not variables, sorry, cases, 15 cases for key independent variables. Right? There are more than 15 cases or 15 observations for 3 independent variables. The data may be, the data may be sufficient to perform the discriminant analysis. So that's how you need to consider this the sufficiency of data set. Okay. If there is a overlap in the distribution, this overlap in the distribution or the categories, it should be if the overlap in distribution is small, discriminant function separates groups well. So confusion or the overlapping in the categories should be very much small. Okay, and only then it would be, if it is a large overlapping is there between 2 categories, then discriminant function may for this, how to do in SPSS. So I have just taken some screenshots and shown here, and we'll discuss about later. Let us go directly now to the SPSS window. Okay, you can see this my SPSS window. Now, your file if you want to get. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible, but SPSS window is not visible, sir.
Now visible, sir.
Visible?
Visible, sir, but your voice is breaking, sir, very often.
Actually, maybe perhaps that this is because of network connectivity issue. It's raining out here. Okay, try to see. Now, am I audible? Someone confirm. Hello. Let
Sir, voice breaking, sir. Audible, but like
this is
totally breaking.
okay. Then let me change the network. Let us see if it works with
Wait for 1-2 minutes, sir.
the Am I audible now? Who is the voice clarity now?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Yes, sir, clear, clear.
Clear. Okay, thank you. Okay, once again, I am sharing the screen. Are you able to, if you are able to see my
Fine, sir, fine,
SPSS
now
window?
fine, fine.
SPSS window is visible? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, so let us understand this discriminant analysis through a practical application or performing the data analysis in SPSS. As I told you that there has to be, now look at this data set. There are, we have a data set with reference to the age of the respondents, the income, monthly income of the respondents, and whether how much time, how many years they have got married after. So married life means post marriage, what is their number of years, how many years after the marriage. So that's how we have collected the data for three variables, and we want to know whether the company, company might have launched, as I told you, that company might have launched a product. It says hypothetical data. Company might have launched a product. Now company is interested to know whether they can predict a particular client or particular customer, whether it will be a buyer or non-buyer. Okay, buyer or non-buyer of that particular product, based upon three independent variables: age, income, and married. Number years after marriage, many years after marriage. So if the company is able to predict this category of the respondents, then the more discriminant model may be used by the company. So whenever next time any customer comes may ask that what is the age, income, and how many years of they have spent after the marriage. So if they have this information, they predict that whether the potential customer will be a buyer or non-buyer. If so, if it comes out to be a buyer, then the company should pay attention to the customer. If it turns out to be a non-buyer, why should the company waste his time? You're getting my point. So buyer or non-buyer will be a dependent variable, which is a categorical variable. There are two categories here out here right now, as of now. There can be more than two categories. 3 categories could have been there. But if there are more than 2 categories, we use a multiple discriminant analysis, isn't it? As I told you. First, let us go with this simple linear discriminant analysis. Okay. So how to perform this linear discriminant analysis? Go to analyze. Okay. And we will see here there is a classify option. Okay. In analyze, there is a classify option, and there is a discriminant option also. Here, click on this discriminant. Now you will see a discriminant analysis box. Here you transfer the dependent variable into this grouping variable, because our dependent variable is a categorical variable. So we want to know this. So transfer this buy or non-buyer, and we need to define the range. Okay. So range, what are the ranges of this buyer and non-buyer? We want to see like the categories. Okay. If I give this buyer, non-buyer is actually we have coded as 0 and buyer as 1. So 0 and 1. So in just like in ANOVA, we perform ANOVA or regression analysis. We can also perform the analysis of variance, whether they are, let us first perform the ANOVA and regression, and then discriminant analysis, because the results, as I told you, the results of ANOVA regression will be used in the discriminant analysis, okay, in order to interpret. Let us run the ANOVA first. Compare means one-way ANOVA. Okay, so the factor is the buyer or non-buyer. Let us transfer all these variables to this dependent list. Okay. Simply we want the ANOVA results. That's it. This is the ANOVA. So this is one-way ANOVA result, and also let us regress a simple linear regression. Let us perform a simple linear regression with dependent variable buyer or non-buyer. However, it is a categorical variable, but we can perform, still we can perform a simple linear regression because the computer, SPSS will not understand that these are categories. SPSS will only understand that these are the values, absolute values, 1 or 2, 0 and 1, 0 and 1, 0 and 1. Based upon that, it will predict some values. We want to predict these values, simple result, okay? And again, you transfer all these variables to independent, and nothing. We want a simple regression model summary and the regression results, okay? We are not also interested in the coefficients. So this is our results. So if you see, let us read this ANOVA result between groups and within groups. Age, whether age is having a significant mean difference across the buyers and non-buyers. Yes, there is a significant mean difference. Okay, there is a significant mean difference between buyers and non-buyers. Income is also having the significant mean difference. Marital state, married life is also having a significant status. So how do we know this? As I told you, these p values are less than these p values. If they are less than 0.05, generally level of significance less than 0.05, we conclude that there is a significant difference. So all these values are significant, okay, less than 0.05. So ANOVA table is okay, fine. Regression model, if you go with the regression model, so how much is the coefficient of correlation? Coefficient of multiple correlation. So coefficient of multiple correlation is 0.825. A simple regression, 0.825. And this is R. So what would be the R square? R coefficient of correlation is 0.825, right? 0.825, and R square would be the value, the squared value, to 0.681. So it means 68% of the variation in the dependent variable is explained by the independent variables, right? This is how we interpret, considering that all the assumptions of regression analysis are met. Okay, we assume that all the assumptions of regression analysis are met. Similarly, all the assumptions of discriminant analysis are met. We are assuming. I just want to show you that how we perform and how do we interpret. Checking of the assumptions is your responsibility, primary responsibility for your original data set. Okay, 0.681, meaning thereby 68% is explained variance. And how much is the unexplained part? So 1 minus R square would be the unexplained part. So somewhere 32%, 0.32 would be the unexplained variance. This is unexplained variance, which is equal to. You not able to see my screen earlier? Hello? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
You were not able to see my screen earlier? Because I got the message now you can see, now participants can see my screen.
No, sir, your screen is visible. Yeah.
Okay, fine. This is the results of the ANOVA and regression. Now let us go with the discriminant, generating the output of discriminant analysis. So as I told you, that go to analyze, and there is a classify and discriminant option. Transfer the categorical dependent variable to this grouping variable. And range has to be defined as minimum was 0, which was non-buyer, and 1 was the maximum, which is buyer. And transfer all independent variables to this independent box. So initially, we will go with the enter method, means we will be entering all the independent variables together. In regression analysis also, there are a number of methods, forward regression, stepwise regression. Here is also we have a stepwise method. We will not use right now the stepwise method. We'll use the enter method only. Click on statistics. What you want? What generally we want the descriptive means, univariate ANOVAs, box M. Box M test, which is important. Also, you click on this Fisher's and unstandardized coefficients function, or discriminant functions coefficients. Fisher is a standardized one and unstandardized coefficients. And then click continue. We can also, you see, we can also have this within group correlation, within group covariances, but not required. Classify, just make sure you see we have the summary table is checked, because this will give you the summary, classification summary of accuracy of the classification. All right. And then nothing to do, simply you can use this replace missing values with mean, but it's always better to have your data file cleaned. You know, there is a clean data file, and otherwise you can replace, but my data file is here thin, so I need not to go check on this. But make sure that this summary table is checked. Continue, and then click on save option. Make sure that pick the group membership and discriminant scores, they are checked, because we want to know that what would be the predicted group membership and discriminant scores using the values. Continue, and then okay. Now there will be a long list of output tables generated by the SPSS for discriminant analysis. We will read and interpret one by one. Discriminant analysis starting from here. So first table talks about the summary statistics. Okay, summary of how many are the valid cases. If you see in our data file, there are 18 cases. So valid cases are 18 valid cases having the dependent variable buyer and non-buyer. Okay, and this is also reported by the summary statistics. Statistics simply means mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and so on. So for the non-buyer, what is the mean age? What is the mean income? What is the married life? Mean of the married life 3.22. Okay, so 26. Standard deviation is 3.586 for age. You can see here the standard deviation for age across both the categories, means non-buyer and buyer and non-buyer. There is not much difference. So the covariances will also not be very much significantly different. Similarly, income, how much is the difference? The variance 808. Average is 2177, and the standard deviation at 808. For buyers, it is 1098. Okay, for and then similarly this one also. So this is a summary statistics. You can check that what are the means for the buyers and non-buyers. Now this is important. Wilks lambda. Now what is that Wilks lambda? And if you remember that it tells you about, I told you that Wilks lambda tells you about the percentage of variation which is not explained. Now this can also, we can also get this from ANOVA table. So look at this ANOVA table. Okay, initially in the ANOVA table, this was our ANOVA table. Let us copy this and see what Wilks lambda is. Okay, so I have pasted this in Excel. Just paste this copy and paste in Excel. All right. So this is now the result, ANOVA result. Between group for age, within group, what is sum of squared, and then significant or non-significant means sum of squared. So if you remember that between groups, what is the sum of squares? This is the explained variation. This is the total variation. Total variation for age is 440, and between groups, that means explained, and this is unexplained. So what is the explained part? If I take the proportion of this variation equal to here, equal to this explained divided by this part, total. So what is the percentage? The percentage of variation explained part is this much. Okay. What is the unexplained part? This is the unexplained, equal to this divided by total 51.51, 51% is unexplained. What is this? This is actually the explained part. What we can say is this is r square, this is r square, and this is what? This is 1 minus r square. Isn't it? This is 1 minus r square. This 1 minus r square is unexplained part. Can you see where it was in the output of SPSS? You see somewhere here, okay, discriminant output here, Wilks lambda. How much it is? 0.515. Is it same here? 0.51. Okay, let me do it for others also. Control C, Control V for all the other options. All. Okay, you can check what is the value. Okay, up to 3 decimal points. So what is this? This is r square. And this is 1 minus r square. And we 0.515, 0.748, and 0.635. Can you check these values out here? 0.515, 0.748, and 0.635. So we can give a name to these values as this is what is called as Wilks lambda. Okay. This is what is called as Wilks lambda. What is Wilks lambda? The proportion of variation which is not explained by the independent variables. What it should be while interpreting the results in this output, should be minimum or maximum. How to report? It should be minimum or maximum. Percentage of variation explained should be minimum. So you can see here 0.15. Age is actually not explaining. How much variation is not explained by the age? 51%. Then income 74%. Marital status 63%. Okay. So in order of importance, we can see which is important. Age is not, lesser is better. The value of Wilks lambda, lesser is better. You must understand, lesser value is better because it is the unexplained variation. Lesser is better. So which one, if you want to rank, how can we give a rank? Age would be given first rank, and then married life, and then third would be the income. Ranking would be like this: 1, 2, 3. So for testing of equality of group means using Wilks lambda, this is the one. Also, you can check from the significance level. Okay, which is highly significant? All the age, income, and married life. All three independent variables are significant in explaining the categories. Which one is more significant? Age is highly significant, 0.001. Then second is married life, and third would be this one, 1, 2, 3. Likewise, you can also give the ranks from this. All right. So this is 1, first rank, second rank, and third rank. All right. So this is testing of equality of group means. Okay. Now looking at the results of BOXM. BOXM test of equality of covariance matrices. Look at this test result. Okay. Test result table. Now here, BOXM test statistics is 5.992, which is not significant, insignificant, because the value is 0.576, isn't it? So is it significant? This p value, is it significant? This is not significant because this p-value is greater than 0.05. What is the interpretation? Null hypothesis here was in this Boxham test. I told you that covariances are equal. Covariance matrix is same. Here also it is written. The null hypothesis is equal population covariance matrices. Covariance matrices are equal. Means same. An alternate hypothesis would be that covariance matrices are not equal, not same. Okay, not same. Therefore, this, and how we will decide whether to reject the null hypothesis or not? We will decide based upon the p-value. P-value is here 0.576, which is greater than 0.05. We cannot reject the null hypothesis. Okay, had it been less than 0.05, if if this would have been, if p-value would have been less than 0.05 for Boxham, then what we should have done? Then we would have used separate group. As of now, what we have used is we have used within group matrix. Let me show you. We have used within group matrix in statistics. Sorry, continue and classify. Now we have the use covariance matrix, which we have used within group covariance matrix. If the p-value is less than 0.05, then we have rerun the discriminant analysis by picking these separate groups. We need to check on this separate groups. But as of now, our Boxham result says that covariance matrices are same. Okay, we need not to worry. Our requirement, our assumption for performing the discriminant analysis is met. Otherwise, we need to check this separate group statistic. We need to check for this separate group covariance matrix. So right now, this is done within group matrix. Okay, this assumption is met. P-value is we will use separate group matrix. Use separate group covariance matrix. Right. So this is how we can interpret about the Boxham result. Now, there is a long list of tables, generated by the SPSS for discriminant analysis. We are looking at which are more relevant to us in terms of interpreting. Okay, now going ahead. Now there is a summary of discriminant function. Eigenvalue. What is the eigenvalue? What is the canonical correlation? Do you remember that? Can you recall that this value, correlation value 0.825? Did we notice this value somewhere else also? Where was this value, canonical correlation? Is it a coefficient of multiple correlation? In regression analysis, if you go to the regression results in model summary, if you see in regression model summary, the coefficient of multiple correlation was also 0.825. Here also canonical correlation, the summary of canonical correlation is also 0.825. Now, what is this eigenvalue? Eigenvalue can be obtained from the regression results. What is that eigenvalue? Eigenvalue is, let us copy this regression result. This ANOVA regression result, ANOVA. In regression results, I'm copying this in the Excel. See here, this regression, it is basically between groups, and this is within groups. When we perform the ANOVA, In regression results, it is regression and residuals. Residuals means unexplained, and regression means explained variation, right? So, what is the proportion of explained to unexplained? The proportion of explained to unexplained. Okay. So let us calculate the proportion equal to the proportion of explained divided by proportion of unexplained. Okay. How much it is? The value is 2.13. Can you see this? What is this value? We give this name as eigenvalue. This is eigenvalue. What is eigenvalue? Eigenvalue is actually the proportion of the variation, explained variation to unexplained variation. Okay, proportion of explained. What we are expecting actually this eigenvalue to be? Eigenvalue should be higher because we want the higher portion of explained variation from the discriminant analysis. Eigenvalue is 2.136. We have given this value, and this is the proportion of the explained and unexplained. And this is the also represented in discriminant analysis results. Eigenvalue 2.136. Okay, eigenvalue. And what is that canonical correlation? Now, canonical correlation is actually I told you that it's a correlation between the dependent variable and the discriminant scores. Predicted discriminant scores. So what are the predicted discriminant scores? You can see that there 2 new variables are created because we asked the SPSS to save. You remember, we asked the SPSS to save 2 predicted group membership as well as the discriminant scores. Predicted group membership is this one. Whether this is a predicted group membership, it will be buyer, non-buyer, non-buyer, and buyer, like that. And then discriminant scores. These are the discriminant scores based upon the model, discriminant analysis model. Okay. So, is there any correlation between this discriminant score, which is a predicted score, and this dependent variable? If there is any correlation, that correlation is called as canonical correlation. Now let us take this using correlate, bivariate, and transfer this variable bivariate and this one. So what is the correlation? You see, the correlation is 0.825. Isn't it? Correlation is 8.5, and this correlation is called as canonical correlation, which was there in the summary of canonical discriminant functions. This is important to report. Summary of canonical discriminant functions, 0.85. Eigenvalue, you have understood that higher eigenvalue is better. How much percentage of variation is explained? The more percentage of variation is explained, 2.136 with higher canonical correlation. So if this canonical correlation, the value of canonical correlation is more than 0.8, the discriminant analysis model is good. Just like regression analysis, we say if the coefficient of multiple correlation is better, it is more than 0.8, the the accuracy or the prediction of the regression model is better. Similarly, we can say that if the eigenvalue is higher and then canonical correlation, if it is greater than 0.8, this discriminant analysis may be good. This is the Wilks lambda again for all the all together test functions, Wilks lambda. So this Wilks lambda is again unexplained variation, and it is significant. It is significant 0.001 because now there is a test function created. How we are getting these scores actually? How we are getting these discriminant scores? We are getting these discriminant scores from the regression coefficients. There were regression coefficients already in regression analysis. Similarly, we have canonical discriminant function coefficients. This discriminant function coefficients. So using these function coefficients, we can write the equation. How can we write the equation? Let us write the equation. Okay. And the equation would be whether the dependent variable means buyer or non-buyer, buyer or non-buyer, equal to constant. What is that constant? So minus 10.003. Okay. Yes. Then first variable, first independent variable, the coefficient is 0.46 into age plus 0.001 into income plus 0.085 into merit. That will be our equation, isn't it? 0.085 into merit. Using this equation, now we can predict the score. For example, if I get this score, and the predicted score would be, if I know this age of a particular person would be 24, if I put the value of age 24, and income 1200, and married life 4 years, how much score I will get? I will get this score, this equation, minus 0.280674. Similarly, for all the participants, for all the respondents, I'll be getting these predicted scores. Predicted scores. These are the predicted scores for all the respondents using this equation. So where do we get this equation? From this canonical discriminant function coefficients. Am I clear? Okay. Now the question is whether we have got these discriminant scores. Right? Now, how to know which discriminant score will be categorized as buyer or non-buyer? Okay, so we come to know for this using these functions at group centroid. Group centroids means there are, for the non-buyers, the cutoff, there has to be some cutoff value. The cutoff is minus 1.378. So any value which is less than minus 1.378, okay, which is higher value in the negative side, okay, will be treated as non-buyers, and any value which is more than positive 1.378 would be treated as buyer. So this is the cutoff actually, in order to classify the dependent variable. So this is the cutoff value. Now you look at this table, 1.378. Now in the sense, these are the predicted scores. So what are the values which are actually minus less than 1.378? These values, some values, let me mark these values from this to this point. All these values all these values are lesser than minus 1.378. So our scale is like this. You see, there will be some value. Then here there is a negative 1.378. Okay. Then there will be 0. Then there will be positive 1.378. And then again, the scale, the meta scale. So any value which is less than minus 1.378 will be non-buyer. Okay, this would be non-buyer. And any value which is more than 1.378 will be buyer. Okay. Now, what about those values which are lying between these two? This area. This area. What about this area? This area is actually the confusion area. Confusion area. So it is very much clear. You can see that those values which are less than minus 1.378, meaning thereby which are highlighted in this region, okay, this cell, they are all non-buyers, and any values which are less than, more than 1.378 positive. So these are those values from this to this. They all are buyers. Predicted score values, they are buyers. What about these values? these values. Now these values are in the confusion area, meaning thereby they're based upon the model, there will be some some respondents would be treated as the buyers, some would be treated as non-buyers. Now how it is decided, there is a rule, the algorithm discriminant analysis tells you about. So this region, this confusion area should be minimum possible. Minimum possible. Are you having any question? Anyone? Minimum. Someone's okay. Fine. So that's how this buyers and non-buyers, but how accurately they are predicted by this model? How accurately they are predicted? No? This is given by this table. This is a function set group centroid. So these values are actually the cutoff points, okay, to classify. And lastly, we see classification metrics. Now, classification results. Look at this classification results. Classification results. This is important. Now we want to know that how accurately our model predicted the actual buyers. So originally, those non-buyers predicted. This is a predicted group numbers. Non-buyers total were 9. Okay, out of 9, 8 non-buyers were predicted as non-buyers. But 1 was predicted as buyer. You can see here. Out of 8, this non-buyer is predicted as buyer. Meaning all 8 are predicted as non-buyers. So this is wrongly predicted by the model. Okay. Similarly, you just check the buyers. 0 buyers were predicted non-buyers, meaning thereby all the buyers, 9 were the buyers, they are predicted as buyers. So this is actually the matrix. How many total out of, there were 18 respondents. How many are correctly predicted? Means those who were non-buyers, they are predicted by the model as non-buyers. This is correct. Those who were buyers, they are correctly predicted by the system as buyer model. So how many are correctly predicted? 9 plus 8, 17 are correctly predicted. 1 is wrongly predicted, means the one who was non-buyer but was predicted as buyer. 1 is wrongly predicted. So what is the percentage of prediction accuracy? What is the prediction accuracy? So out of 90, out of 18, 17 are correctly predicted. So how much is the prediction accuracy? The prediction accuracy is, you can see prediction accuracy. You can calculate the prediction accuracy for the model as correct predictions. Correct predictions. Okay. Correct predictions divided by total predictions or total cases. You can say total cases. So how many are correct predictions? 17 are correct predictions. 17 divided by 18. What is the percentage? Percentage is actually 94.4%, which is also mentioned out here. You can see 94.4% of original groups cases are correctly classified. Okay, so this is the prediction accuracy of the discriminant analysis, 94.4%. But as I told you, if you have more categories, okay, if you have more categories, then this prediction accuracy will decrease, because as of now we have 2x2 matrix. Means there are 2 categories and they are to be predicted as correct or wrong. If there are 3 categories, there will be 3x3 matrix. In the 3x3 matrix, you can see how many will be the correct predictions. There will be 3 correct predictions, diagonal. These are the diagonally, they are correct predictions. And then remaining all 3x3 means 9. There are 9. There will be 9 predictions out of 9, there will be 3 correct predictions. In the sense on the diagonal. Okay, you can see here on the diagonal. So these will be the correct predictions numbers, but all these will be the remaining 6. Remaining 6 will be the wrong predictions. As you increase the number of categories in the dependent variable, prediction accuracy decreases. So the question is now what to report. This is the model. What to report? I have shown you here in this PPT also some all these reports. This is how to report, generate the output, and then what to report. Summary output. First 2 tables summary output we should report for the discriminant analysis. And then what is the relationship of dependent and independent variables using Wilks lambda. So what is Wilks lambda? I hope you are able to understand. It is the percentage of variation which is not explained, unexplained variation. So I have showed you using the Excel sheet also. So from the ANOVA, you can take the results of ANOVA and to calculate the percentage of variation explained. Percentage. This is the explained part. You can see this is explained variation. Explained variation. Okay. And this is Wilks lambda 1 minus R square. So you can calculate this divided by the total variation, or you can simply calculate with 1 minus R square. So this can also be 1 minus equal to 1 minus this value, and the result will be same 0.515. Both ways, nothing. There is no logic, very rocket science in this. Simple logic. Okay, Wilks lambda unexplained variation. So minimum is preferred for Wilks lambda. And what next? What we need to report? We need to report the BOXM results. BOXM results, statistic results. If the test statistic results, the significant value statistic is significant, it means p-value is less than 0.05. We should use separate groups covariance matrix. Otherwise, if it is greater than 0.05, use within group covariance matrix. So I have told you this about this. In discriminant analysis, if the p-value of BOXM result 0.576 is greater than 0.05, so we can continue within the groups. Okay, so within the groups, classify within the groups covariance matrix. Otherwise, if had it been less than 0.05, we should rerun the discriminant analysis using this separate groups. Okay, so now once this discriminant analysis is done and you have the predicted scores for the respondents, and you also have the group membership, predicted group membership, whether he will be buyer or non-buyer. So similarly, this prediction can be done if you have any data set or any future or potential customer with respect to the age, income, and married life. You can definitely predict its category. What will be the prediction accuracy? You will be 94.4% correct in predicting whether he will be a buyer or non-buyer. Are you getting my point? So this is given by the prediction, this classification result. So I have copied this also from in the PPT for your reference. Eigenvalues. What are the eigenvalues? I told you that I have already explained in the PPT previously, but what is actually the eigenvalue? Eigenvalue is the portion of the variation, explained variation to the unexplained variation. And canonical correlation, higher it is, better it is. Okay, canonical correlation is the relationship between the dependent variable and the discriminant score. Relationship between the discriminant scores. If you remember this, we wanted to know whether is there any relationship between this score and this dependent variable. So if there is any relationship, this relationship is called as canonical correlation. All right, in discriminant analysis. Here, okay. And what else to be reported? Oh, where is that? Okay. You should report this. These are the computing. How can we compute the discriminant scores? Canonical discriminant function using this table coefficient scores. You can make a equation just like we have a regression equation. You can have an equation for the discriminant model, analysis model also. And using this equation, we predicted the scores. Okay, and these are the cutoff value. Group centroids. So group centroids. So for non-buyers, the cutoff is -1.378. For buyers, it is 1.378. In between, there is a confusion. Okay, so and then the system has predicted whether there will be buyer or non-buyer. But these are after these cutoffs, there is a clear-cut prediction for these respondents. Okay, and lastly, we see the classification statistics using the classification results which are correctly classified. So out of 9 non-buyers, 8 are correctly classified. Those who are non-buyers, and they are also predicted as 8 are predicted as non-buyers. 1 is wrongly predicted. And then like this. What is the prediction accuracy? Prediction accuracy is 94.4%. If you know any potential client's age, income, and married life, married years, then you will be able to predict 94.4% accurately whether he will be buyer or non-buyer. But still, there is a 6% chance that the prediction may go wrong. 94% is a good prediction accuracy. So all the variables, independent variables, are significant, and they are significant. How do we know that all the independent variables are significant in prediction? From this test of equality of group means. If at all there is any variable which is insignificant, the p-value would have been greater than 0.05. But here, all the independent variables are significant in discriminating the dependent variable as buyer or non-buyer. Am I clear? Okay. Fine. So this is what to report. Let me just summarize. Summary statistics, you can report group statistics, and also this table, test of equality of group means. And then BOXM test, what is the status of equality of covariance matrices should be reported. And the summary of canonical discriminant function, eigenvalues, and Wilks lambda all together. And then the coefficients, canonical discriminant function coefficients, because they are very much important in generating. Using these coefficients only, we can generate the discriminant scores. And the cutoff values, group centroid should be reported. And lastly, classification results. What is the accuracy of your discriminant analysis model? All this should be reported. So I hope something is clear about the discriminant analysis and where you can use. Similarly, if there are more than 2 categories, we can use discriminant analysis, but there the procedure is little bit different, not very much. Simply, if there are more than 2 categories, you can go run the classify discriminant analysis, and more than 2 categories, if there are, you can select stepwise method. If you select a stepwise method, those variables, independent variables, which are not significantly helping dependent variable in discriminating the categories, will be removed. So stepwise method can be used. When you click on this stepwise method, automatically you see that method option is activated, and there it will automatically, you need not to do anything here, but only simply click continue, and we can use the stepwise method also. But here, all 3 variables were significant. From the primary analysis, we came to know that all 3 variables are significant. If at all any variable would have been any insignificant, we could have used the stepwise regression, stepwise method instead of enter method. All right. This is how we can use this discriminant analysis. Now I would like to address your queries or questions if you have any.
Hello, sir.
Sir,
Good evening.
hello, sir. Hello, sir.
I request
Yes.
to participants kindly please ask the question one by one.
Shall I stop sharing this?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, myself, Dr. Neha Ansari. Sir, I have one question in relation to the equation what we form. Sir, please, can you share the presentation or should I share the results which we got?
Okay, I can show you the results if from
Yes.
the equation.
Yes, so the value which came up, that is minus 1.378 and plus 1.378.
Okay,
Just 1 minute.
I'm sharing once
Yeah,
again.
The functions at the group centroid, that values.
Okay.
So does
Okay.
it, okay.
Yeah,
So,
this
sir,
one.
yeah, so thus it indicates that the equation what we would be forming from this coefficient values, which are mentioned in the above table.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. So, sir, if after putting every values in the equation, if we are getting a result that is nearer to minus 1.378 or which is nearer to plus 1.378, it means it is a non-buyer or a buyer situation.
If the value is greater than 1.378,
Okay.
I draw a scale, no? I drew a scale. If you remember, I drew a scale. The scale was, let me once again.
Yeah,
See,
I
the
do
scale
remember
was,
that.
so from 0 to, there will be in between values. So minus, this is minus 1.378. This is minus 1.37. Okay. And then 0 will be in between.
Yes, sir.
And then there will be positive value
Positive values.
1.37.
Yes.
And then, so any value which is below minus 1.37 will be non-buyer. Okay. From this to this, any value which is above 1.37 will be buyer. It will be buyer.
Or above.
But what about this? But this is the confusion zone. This is a confusion zone actually. So here actually we want that there should be less values, less values prediction. Here the prediction may go wrong or may correct. Okay, we never know. But the centroid values, they tell you about that what will be your prediction. So in our prediction sheet, prediction results, if you see,
yes,
there are only one respondent is wrongly predicted. Okay, one respondent
yes,
means who was non-buyer.
Non-buyer.
Is only non-buyer is predicted as buyer. Okay, because his score was in confusion zone. His score was in confusion zone.
Okay, sir, can you repeat this one, which the predicted values, how we can calculate this predicted values? I just missed that.
Okay, predicted values, use this equation. Okay, let me show you in the PPT. Okay. Let me show it in the PPT. This is the PPT.
Yes.
Okay, how we can create compute the discriminant scores. So dependent variable is whether he will be buyer or non-buyer. Okay. And what is the coefficient? Constant is minus 10.03.
Yes,
10.003. So minus 10.003 plus age.
Okay.
Okay. 0.246 into age plus 0.001 into income plus 0.085 into married life. So these are the coefficients.
Yes, sir.
Just like we have the coefficients in regression results, no? Regression coefficients are there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Similar to that, we can make a discriminant function. This is a discriminant function. And using this discriminant function, we can calculate the discriminant scores for all the respondents. So you can find out. You can manually also you can calculate using this equation. The results will be same. You will be getting all these values.
Okay. Sir.
Be getting all these values. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, am I audible, sir? Hello.
Yes, you are audible. Yes, you are audible.
I am Dr. A. Vijay Kumar from Erode Arts College, Erode from Tamil Nadu. Sir, for the past 1.5 hours, you well explained the discriminant analysis in all the aspects. Almost you have covered 100%. Thank you very much for your nice presentation. During your presentation, you stated that you simultaneously performed regression and ANOVA. Only just for comparison purpose, you can delete, or otherwise, is it necessary to run the regression and ANOVA before discriminant analysis?
Very good, sir. It is not required actually when we perform the regression or discriminant analysis. I just to show you that how the results of ANOVA and regression can be used to understand the terminology which we use, Wilks lambda, eigenvalues, canonical correlation, just to make you understand that what are these. So I used the results of ANOVA and regression analysis to make you understand about these terminology. However, they are not required. In discriminant analysis, once you understand the terms very clearly, I hope through the Excel, like what is the relationship, what is Wilks lambda, what is that eigenvalue, what is that canonical correlation, it helped you a lot actually in understanding that one. So
Definitely.
for that sake only I calculated. Otherwise, it is not required. Absolutely, you are correct.
Very, sir. Very, very good, sir. Very nice presentation. We understood all the aspects of discriminant analysis. Thank you very much. I attended your first session also, first FDP also. It's a very nice session.
Okay.
I really enjoyed both sessions. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I'll be sharing the PPT to the coordinator. Any other question if anyone has related to the discriminant analysis?
Participant, I request you, if you have anything else, any question, kindly post in the chat box, or either raise your hands and unmute yourself and speak your question, please.
Yeah. Some contact details. Participant, okay. I can give you my mail ID, sir, Dr. Chaudhary, if you allow, or otherwise
You can.
you can share my.
Please, sir. Please put it on chat box, sir, if it's possible.
Okay. Yes. I share my mail ID. You can text me your queries related to the discriminant analysis or any topic related to the research. Okay. I hope that this one mail ID is gone.
Yes, sir. Is visible, sir. Is
Okay.
Any more questions?
Any question? Anyone having?
We have few minutes more time, so we can use the time.
Yes. 2 more minutes. 10 minutes are there. So actually, I wanted to. I was thinking like there will be many questions. That's why I finished 15 minutes early.
As per
That
my
I could have
experience, like very less questions come from this FDP.
Okay. It means it's all clear, maybe in both the sense.
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, the topic was crystal clear, so there are no questions.
Is it like that? No,
Thank you
thank
very
you so
much,
much then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
sir.
so much. Yes. Thank you so much for your nice words. I hope I made things clear. I tried my best to make
Yes,
you
sir.
understand about the discriminant analysis.
It was one of the best explanations, sir. One
yes,
of the,
sir. Because we have receiving lot of messages from the chat box, sir.
you can see the number of
Number of, sorry. Over to you, people, sir, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I request Himajyoti ji to provide the vote of thanks to sir.
Good evening all who present in the session. I am Himajyoti Kasraneni, a research scholar from VIT AP University, Andhra Pradesh. It's my pleasure to attend the 2 FDPs conducted by JNSMS Assam University. And first and foremost, I thank Atal Academy and Assam University for having such an eminent resource person to have in our session. I extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Krishna Murari sir, Associate Professor, Head of the Department of Management, Sikkim University, and his deliberation includes what is discriminant analysis, its uses, assumptions, and how TA is differ or similar with other analyses, the key terms used in discriminant analysis and its limitations. He also summarized the discriminant analysis design very clearly. And sir, you have made how to conduct discriminant analysis in SPSS very easy, and you made the interpretation and how to present the results also. It was very easy and so cool in your session. So whatever I want to express, that is already told by other participants. Thank you for the wonderful session, sir. And finally, I thank Deep Jyoti sir for providing such a great opportunity to thank Krishna Murari sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Anand.
Himajyoti ji. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Himajyoti.
Sir, I wanted to tell you, like, the way when I called you yesterday, and at a very one instant you agreed to take the class, like no other resource person will do such way, sir.
Really, actually, I keep on taking the sessions on these topics. So nothing, very less was, I had to prepare. Otherwise, so it's all done.
Actually, many resource person, if you tell, like they require some time to prepare, like you were at a very instant, you were ready. Like this is wonderful, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for
But
becoming part of our FDP, and I am looking forward to similar sessions in future also, sir, from you.
yeah, sure. No issue. No issue. Whenever if I get time, I will definitely, because I love delivering the sessions and explaining these things, technicalities of research with the research, research scholars.
Yeah.
So I love and I enjoy, explaining these things.
So once
because in that way,
one specialty of your lecture is like we can get a mix of both management and the statistics. Like whenever we become very specific, then it becomes subject specific. But whenever you like explain, it becomes a mix of management plus statistics both together. So
yes.
it matches the participants' queries, the participants' line of thinking. It all matches.
Actually, I do not want my sessions, to be purely on statistics based, because that makes the participants are from, non-commerce or non-statistics background. It actually creates a trouble to them to understand. So I try to make it as more, more simple terms as they can understand.
Yeah, because the
but
program is
some
for
things-
social sciences, so diverse background subjects are there. Participants from different fields, different subjects are there. So it's
True.
better, you like in a lucid way, if we can understand, if we can make them understand.
Yes.
So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Giving us precious time and helping us in this FDP. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Himajyoti, Dr. Himajyoti. If you
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, if you want, from where are you from?
From Andhra Pradesh, sir, VIT AP University.
Okay. So if you want, you can conduct the sessions, some similar kind of sessions in your college or
Sir,
your
definitely,
program.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
so
I would
much,
be
sir.
happy. I would be happy to visit your place. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary.
Before that, visit Assam whenever you get chance.
Yes. Yeah.
It is near to you.
Let the corona be normalized. Yeah, then definitely will.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So
Thank you so much. Thank you all the participants. Wish you all the best. Okay.
So we are
Shall I leave the meeting now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We are finishing this session. We are calling it a day here. Thank you. Participants can see the chat box to find the attendance link.